This story is a work of fiction, inspired by real events. Names, dates, locations, and identifying details have been changed or dramatized to protect privacy and enhance the narrative. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental or used fictitiously. This content is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not aim to glorify crime, promote violence, or pass judgment on real individuals. Viewer discretion is advised. Some scenes may contain mature, disturbing, or triggering content. What you are about to watch could have happened anywhere, to anyone. It's inspired by real events. Whispers of truth, buried beneath layers of fiction. We've changed the names, the dates, the locations, but the emotions, the betrayal, the fear, those are real. This story is not meant to accuse, only to reveal, to make you question, who do you really trust? If stories like this keep you thinking, long after they end, hit subscribe, smash like, and drop your theory in the comments. Now watch closely, before the truth disappears again.
At 2:13 a.m. on June 18, 2021, the Pacific Ocean below the Royal Crest opened its darkness and an 18-year-old girl disappeared into it within seconds. A single splash, a brief ripple, then only the sound of the ship cutting through the night. By sunrise, passengers were still sleeping, unaware that the Carver family's trip had already turned into a headline waiting to be written. Official reports called it a tragic fall, a heartbreaking accident during a birthday getaway. But that version collapsed the moment a misplaced camera card surfaced and exposed what no one was supposed to see. Her name was Luna Carver, bright, meticulous, soft-spoken, the kind of student whose teachers kept letters from colleges waiting for her. On June 16, 2021, when the Carver family boarded the Royal Crest in San Diego to celebrate Patricia's 45th birthday, the photos showed them smiling as if nothing in their world could ever crack. But Luna's smile barely held. Her posture was tight, her eyes distant, and even in the warm afternoon light she looked like someone carrying a truth she couldn't say out loud. The crew's videos later recovered showed another layer, Luna studying on deck, winning awards, being praised, and then Patricia watching her with a stare that held no warmth at all. For 10 years, something unspoken lived between them, something that grew quietly inside a mother who could not stand being outshined by her own child. And on this ship, with nowhere to run, it reached its breaking point. At 9:42 a.m., the Royal Crest released its statement, "No foul play suspected." But someone on board knew exactly how Luna's night ended. And now, so do the cameras. What pushes a mother to destroy the child she brought into the world? Before we uncover what happened on that deck and why Luna Carver never walked off the Royal Crest, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on, because each detail in this story becomes more important than the last. Now, take a breath, steady your thoughts, and stay with me as we step back to the beginning, 2 days before the fall, when the Carver family boarded the ship and the first signs of what was coming quietly slipped into view. When the Royal Crest released its statement on the morning of June 18, 2021, the world was told that Luna Carver's fall into the Pacific was a heartbreaking accident, but the roots of that night stretched far beyond the ship's railing. They reached back to a childhood marked by responsibility, loss, and a quiet strength that set her apart from the other kids in her neighborhood. From an early age, Luna carried herself with a calm intelligence that made adults look twice, the kind of child who listened more than she spoke. Losing her biological mother created a space inside her that she filled with discipline and maturity, learning early on to manage her emotions with a steadiness most children never develop. So when her father remarried in 2011, introducing Patricia into their lives, Luna approached the change with patience, hoping this new woman would help rebuild the home she missed. But what she hoped for and what she stepped into were two very different realities. Patricia came into the family with confidence and presence, the type of woman people once noticed for her looks, her energy, and the way she carried herself. She was used to praise, used to attention, used to being the center of the moment, even if she never excelled academically or professionally. Her identity had been shaped by being admired, not by being measured. When she moved into Luna's home, she was met with a young girl whose report cards outshined anything her own children brought to the table, a girl who didn't chase attention but received it effortlessly. Patricia's children, Rita, Danielle, and Kevin. Each lived with their own insecurities, struggling in school and searching for approval their mother never quite knew how to give. With Luna's success displayed on every refrigerator magnet and school trophy, Patricia felt an old wound she didn't know how to control beginning to reopen. Rita kept herself small, staying out of the way and letting the louder personalities absorb the tension in the house. Danielle wore sarcasm like armor, turning conversations into jokes before anyone had the chance to see how deeply she wished she could measure up. Kevin reacted with anger, slamming doors, pushing boundaries, and snapping any time Luna received a compliment he believed should have gone to one of them. In the middle of it all, Luna tried to ease the strain, helping Rita with homework, softening her tone when Kevin lashed out, and staying patient when Danielle made comments that cut sharper than she intended. Instead of easing Patricia's discomfort, Luna's kindness made it worse, as if every gentle gesture highlighted the gap Patricia could never close. Over time, Luna became a reminder Patricia never escaped, a reminder of everything she thought she lost and everything she feared she could never be. The shift in Patricia didn't happen all at once, it moved slowly, almost quietly, through small moments that seemed harmless on the surface. A correction at the dinner table turned into a reprimand about respect, even when Luna spoke with courtesy. A high test score triggered a lecture about humility, delivered with a forced smile that never reached Patricia's eyes. When Luna tried to help Rita with math, Patricia accused her of trying to show everyone she was smarter. Family gatherings became silent competitions, with Luna shrinking herself while Patricia radiated discomfort she couldn't hide. And in each of those moments, Luna learned that no matter how softly she walked, she would never be welcome in Patricia's shadow. As the years passed, Patricia's uneasiness hardened into something that changed the air in the house. She watched Luna constantly, studying her from doorways, from kitchen counters, from the end of hallways where Luna thought no one noticed. Her expression held a strange stillness, not anger, not sadness, but a cold distance that made Luna move more quietly without understanding why. Patricia avoided praising her, avoided celebrating her, avoided showing any sign that Luna belonged in the family she married into. Instead, she praised other children for the smallest achievements while ignoring Luna entirely, acting as though acknowledging her would widen a wound she didn't want to face. And in those silent seconds when their eyes met, something in Patricia's stare made Luna look away first every single time. By the time the Carvers booked their cruise in June 2021, the distance between Luna and Patricia had become a part of daily life. Luna kept her schedule full with schoolwork, extracurriculars, and quiet spaces where she hoped the tension would ease, even though it never truly did. Her father never recognized how deep the divide ran. Patricia hid her resentment behind politeness, saving her sharpest moments for times he wasn't in the room. To outsiders, they looked like a normal blended family doing their best to move forward. But inside those walls, a different story unfolded, one rooted in years of unspoken comparison and a mother's growing fear of being replaced by a child who never wanted the spotlight. As the cruise date approached, each member of the family carried their own version of the truth, but Luna carried the one that hurt the most. People close to the Carvers saw more than they admitted at the time, and one friend in particular never forgot the way Patricia spoke whenever Luna's name came up. She recalled the tone, the pause, the strange stiffness in Patricia's voice, as if the words themselves carried weight she didn't want to hold. Years later, when investigators began asking questions, that friend offered a quiet, unsettling detail that reshaped the entire story. She said, she always talked about Luna. But never with love. And in that one sentence, the curtain lifted on a truth the family had avoided for years, long before Luna vanished into the Pacific, something inside Patricia had already begun to break. The Carver family stepped onto the Royal Crest, the gleaming ship cutting through the endless ocean, passengers laughing and music spilling across the deck, but Luna felt the weight of every eye she wished would ignore her. She followed her siblings, clutching her bag tightly, forcing polite smiles while her heart thudded quietly against her chest. Kevin darted ahead toward the arcade, Danielle's voice laced with sarcastic remarks, and Rita lingered nearby, sensing the tension that always seemed to cling to the family like an invisible fog. Patricia moved with a controlled elegance, arm around her husband, yet her gaze kept returning to Luna, measuring, calculating, as if the girl's presence alone disrupted the world she had built for her own children. Luna tried to lose herself in the motion of the ship, counting the waves, focusing on the gulls, anything to distance herself from the tension that had been growing ever since she arrived. On the pool deck, the first confrontation made the tension undeniable. Patricia's voice cut through laughter as she commented on Luna's swimsuit, each word sharpened with intention, forcing Luna to shrink into herself, unsure whether to retreat or respond. Kevin laughed, the edge in his tone making her chest tighten, while Danielle added her own mocking remarks about Luna's posture and achievements. Rita watched silently, her stomach twisting as she recognized the pattern of exclusion and quiet attacks that never ceased. Luna smiled politely where she could, masking the ache of isolation, each step careful, as though she might vanish if she moved wrong. During the afternoon trivia game in the atrium, Luna answered flawlessly, earning polite applause that should have been joyful. Kevin leaned close, voice dripping irritation as he accused her of stealing the spotlight, while Danielle dismissed her scholarship acceptance as though it were a flaw. Luna stood still, heart tightening, forcing calm over the humiliation that was layered with each glance, each subtle dig, each mocking remark. The ship's cheerful environment contrasted sharply with the icy tension that had been quietly building around her, each interaction reminding her that she was never truly safe within her own family. By evening, Patricia's control had slipped. Sitting at the bar with a drink in hand, she spoke to a stranger in a tone that was casual yet pointed. She thinks she's better than everyone else, and, my kids deserve confidence, not someone overshadowing them. Her words were delivered without hesitation, revealing a depth of obsession that was impossible to ignore, and even the bartender felt a quiet disturbance as Patricia's eyes continually found Luna across the room. The girl moved cautiously, sensing the weight of the gaze that followed her relentlessly, aware that something in Patricia's mind had shifted from irritation to intent. As night fell, Luna moved through the darkened hallways, her footsteps echoing softly against the polished floors, each sound magnified in the silence. She sensed a presence, a quiet observation that she could neither name nor see, and she hurried, clutching her arms to herself, telling herself it was exhaustion, imagining shadows where there were none, yet her instincts screamed at her to remain vigilant. On the upper decks, the air was cooler, and the expanse of the ocean stretched endlessly, reflecting her vulnerability and heightening her sense of isolation aboard the floating palace. Dinner became a subtle battlefield. Luna spoke carefully, answering questions politely while Patricia escalated each minor comment into sharp criticism, the clinking of silverware punctuating the tension. A slammed glass drew stares from nearby diners, signaling that the calm mask Patricia had worn all day had completely shattered. She left abruptly, leaving the table and a residue of unease that settled over Luna like a heavy fog. Rita trailed behind, sensing that the evening had crossed an invisible threshold, that the quiet control of the day had shifted into something more menacing and unpredictable. Later, on Deck 9, their paths converged again. Words were exchanged in a whisper, thick with meaning, leaving Luna shaken, every nerve on high alert. She forced herself to keep walking, shoulders tight, heart racing, as Patricia lingered with a look that made it clear the confrontation was far from over. A crew member nearby paused, catching Patricia's low, deliberate muttering, "I'll put an end to this." The words floated into the empty corridor, heavy and unresolved, a promise that made the very air on the ship feel charged with danger. In that moment, the first unmistakable sense of threat settled, invisible yet undeniable, leaving the question of what might happen next hanging in the silence. The deck was quiet, only the soft lapping of waves and a distant horn breaking the night. Luna stood at the railing, shoulders tense, fingers gripping the metal as she stared into the endless darkness of the ocean, trying to steady her thoughts. The wind tugged at her hair, a faint chill brushing her skin, reminding her that the world above carried no weight of the storm brewing in her home. Patricia approached slowly, each step deliberate, her presence almost invisible until it loomed behind Luna, measured, calculated, as if timing the moment itself. The air between them thickened, unspoken history pressing down, the years of quiet resentment and simmering jealousy condensed into a heartbeat that held them both frozen. Luna shifted slightly, a silent request for distance, for calm, for normalcy that had never truly existed between them. Patricia's hand shot forward, gripping Luna's arm with an authority that left no room for denial. Their bodies leaned into one another, eyes locked, movements silent yet loaded with intent, the tension nearly audible over the whisper of the wind. Luna tried to pull away, steps small but deliberate, her calm resolve fighting the weight of the fear rising in her chest. Patricia whispered, a low, sharp hiss of words drowned by the night, voice carrying the sharp edge of long-held envy. Each second stretched impossibly long, a clash of wills, until the moment broke with a sudden, violent push. Luna tipped over the railing, arms flailing, hair scattering across her face, and disappeared into the cold, black water with a splash that echoed across the deck. Silence returned immediately, heavier than before, as if the ocean had swallowed not just her body, but the air itself. Patricia stood motionless for a heartbeat, then exhaled, steadying herself, brushing her hair back and adjusting her jacket as though nothing had happened, a calm that seemed almost rehearsed, a calculated control of what she allowed others to witness. Within minutes, she was screaming into the cabin, voice filled with fear and desperation, hugging Rita and Danielle tightly, pulling Kevin into the fold, each movement meticulous, convincing, designed to erase suspicion. Crew members moved swiftly to search the water, flashlights cutting through the darkness, but the sea yielded nothing. Investigators would later note no witnesses, the night empty, the body unrecovered, the ship labeling the event as an accident, the currents too strong, the darkness too complete. As the chaos ebbed and the family's panic spread, a security guard paused, voice low, carrying a weight that went unnoticed at the time, "We installed new cameras last week. But no one ever checks that deck." The words lingered in the cold night air, a quiet prelude to the truth waiting, silently recorded, unseen, yet ready to emerge and reshape everything the family believed about that night. 2 weeks after Luna's disappearance, the Royal Crest sailed under calm skies, yet beneath its polished decks, tension was thick. A routine security review led to an unexpected discovery, a third-party investigator noticing movement on newly installed cameras that had gone unexamined. The timestamp read 2:12 a.m., hours before dawn, and on the grainy footage, a lone figure paced the deck with deliberate steps. Moments later, Luna appeared, unaware, her posture calm, eyes scanning the horizon as if she could sense nothing of the storm approaching. The confrontation was wordless but charged, gestures sharp, a silent struggle that ended with a push, sending her over the railing into the dark, unyielding water. Patricia walked away with measured composure, adjusting her hair, as if the night had not just swallowed a life. Within the family, reactions were immediate and raw. The father's hands trembled, his gaze dropping to the floor as he replayed small memories, offhand remarks, cold looks, subtle exclusions. Each now carrying new weight. Rita pressed her palms to her cheeks, silent tears tracing her face, realizing the cruelty hidden behind routine family life. Danielle's voice caught in disbelief, her mind racing through past insults that had always seemed trivial until now. Kevin's fists clenched at his sides, chest tight, the truth striking him like a blow he could not evade. Even the investigators exchanged glances, the room heavy with an unspoken recognition that what they were witnessing was deliberate, precise, and devastating. As the footage was analyzed frame by frame, every movement, pause, and glance was catalogued. The pacing, the touch, the subtle steering toward the railing, it formed a narrative of intent impossible to ignore. Patricia's calm denial collided with undeniable evidence, and with each replay, the room absorbed the chilling clarity. This was not a moment of uncontrolled rage, but a calculated act fueled by envy and fear. Memories of inappropriate laughter, minor exclusions, and emotional detachment began to coalesce into a portrait of a woman who saw her stepdaughter's success as a threat too large to endure. When she was finally confronted, her defenses faltered, the air thick with a realization that justice had caught up with what had been hidden in plain sight. The arrest was swift, yet heavy with emotion. The family struggled to reconcile the loving figure they thought they knew with the calculated force that had ended Luna's life. The revelation reverberated through the deck, through the corridors of the ship, and into every mind present. This was not about anger or passion, it was about a mother's envy, crystallized into an act of destruction. The footage had spoken where words could not, leaving a chilling question hanging in the air, impossible to shake. She didn't push her in anger. She pushed her because Luna's future shone brighter than her own children's, and she could not bear to watch it. The courtroom fell silent as the CCTV footage replayed, each frame unflinching in its clarity, revealing a confrontation that ended with a life vanishing into the cold water below. Gasps and whispers filled the room, the jurors' eyes fixed on the screen as the slow, deliberate shove became undeniable. The prosecutor's voice, steady and unyielding, painted a portrait of envy that had smoldered for years, an obsession so quiet it went unnoticed until the fatal moment. Patricia's face remained composed, her mask of control intact, but the jury could see the absence of remorse, the calculated calm that followed the tragedy. Every witness account, every remembered slight and small act of exclusion, built a chain of evidence that left no room for doubt. For the family, it was unbearable. For the court, it was justice crystallizing into evidence too clear to deny. The defense tried to argue accident, a momentary slip, but the chain of events, the body language, the unbroken video footage told a different story. Testimonies revealed laughter edged with disdain, cold glances, and moments when Patricia isolated Luna from everyone else, a pattern that led inexorably to the fateful night. Psychologists described a personality shaped by envy and inferiority, a woman whose insecurity had metastasized into cruelty. Each revelation tightened the air in the courtroom, making it impossible to ignore the depth of her obsession. Family members shifted uneasily, realizing with every detail that the tragedy had been preventable, that the warning signs had always been there. The jury absorbed it all, the weight of human imperfection pressed into each word and frame, as reality settled over the room like a heavy shadow. When the verdict was announced, it cut through the silence with a finality that made hearts ache: guilty. Life imprisonment. There would be no escape, no parole, no rewriting history. Outside the courtroom, the Carvers struggled to reconcile the mother who had destroyed a life with the world they knew, their grief fractured and raw. The father withdrew entirely, a silent sentinel of sorrow, while Rita and Danielle sought therapy to untangle the trauma etched into their young lives. Kevin stared at the ground, guilt pressing against his chest for the moments he had mocked Luna, realizing too late the fragility of a life he had never protected. The family existed now as fragments, each member carrying invisible scars, a living reminder of how ambition and envy can corrode the bonds of love. The ocean stretched endlessly beyond the courtroom walls in memory, dark, indifferent, and eternal. Luna's story endured, etched in the unblinking gaze of a forgotten camera, a testament to truth that could not be erased. The world may have turned away, but the evidence remained, unforgiving, a mirror to human frailty and obsession. Jealousy can wear the softest mask, hiding violence in plain sight until the moment it strikes. And as the night seemed to press close, a question lingered over the quiet waters: how far can envy go when the eyes of the world look elsewhere, and who pays the price when love fails to intervene? The camera captured the truth, but the echo of Luna's absence would haunt everyone who loved her, long after justice had been served.